Welcome to Let the Quran Speak. Since 2018, the world has had evidence that China is repressing its Uyghur community. Here with me is Amina Kerimov. Amina, welcome to Let the Quran Speak.
Hello, how are you?
Amina, we have evidence, of course, of what China is doing, but the world has done very little in response.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about that?
A bit lonely and isolated. It's just that I feel like we're forgotten, that we're not that important, and that we don't deserve the human, the human affection or human help that we should be getting. It's almost like we don't exist to the world. And even if we do cry about it, it's like, what are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm. Tell me what we know about what China is doing to the Uyghur community.
Majority of people know about the concentration camp, but not a lot of people know what's happening in the concentration camp.
Mm-hmm.
China did say, yes, we do have these camps, but there are re-educational camps.
Mm-hmm.
So we educate people on it. It's like vocational camps. They try to beautify it. But what's actually happening is torture, rape, organ donation. Women that go to these camps, they are sent to laborers, factories where they are forced to work. They're separated from their children, and the children are sent to orphanages. There's a lot that's happening. And then now the starvation genocide, which a lot of people did not know, and even myself until recently. So they're all locking them homes in aspect of, COVID. So they're trying to prevent COVID. And they're locking them home, but they're not giving them any food. They're not giving them anything to survive on. So they're letting them die pretty much. And this is all just saying it's COVID and they're trying to prevent it, but it's not the case. They're just trying to get rid of mass amount of people in a short time, get away with it. They're also sterilizing women, and they're also getting them to be married to Han Chinese. So that way the culture is gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember when I first started learning about what was going on to the Uyghur community, I thought it was surreal. Like, it didn't make any sense to me. How is it possible that this is happening in the world, Yeah. And we read about, for example, the digital surveillance that they're doing, the artificial technology, and the police is involved in all this. It seemed like a nightmare. And actually, when I first started hearing about it, I kept having nightmares about it because I kept thinking about it. I couldn't believe that this was happening in our world and nobody was doing anything about it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Amina, can you tell me a little bit about your family who lives in East Turkistan?
So my father, my mother, and my siblings all live in Canada. My father saved us from seeing anything or even experiencing any of those stuff. But I've never seen my hometown. I've never met my grandparents. I've never met my uncles or anyone from other than my parents.
Yeah.
Never had the chance to call them or call them grandparents or anything like that. So I don't know what's going on there, right? So I only hear stories of it from my parents. I don't know how they look, but never seen them, never heard them. So, and then I know that I still don't know, even my father doesn't know if his mom is alive or not, or his brother is alive or not, and we have no way of communicating with them. So I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah. I've heard people say that, even it's risky even to call them,
right?
Yeah, because if you call them, they might get into trouble, right?
Oh, yeah, big time, yeah. They will call them.
And even if you do talk to them, you would have to talk in very coded ways, right?
Yeah. Very coded. If my dad does end up calling and she picks up the phone, if my grandma picks up the phone, she will be sent to concentration camps right away. It doesn't matter her age. She will be sent to concentration camps. And that has happened to many of the people. Just a phone call sent them to concentration camps.
So what impact does this have on the Uyghur community in Toronto, in Canada? Because sometimes we think, okay, this is happening far away. But, when I see members of the Uyghur community, I feel like there's something that's not whole inside them, like something is missing because their heart is, somewhere else, and they don't even know if those people still are alive.
Yeah. It leaves us helpless, to be honest. I myself felt helpless because there's not much we can do, and no matter how many protests we will go, how many MPs we will message, how many times we will share it on Facebook, Instagram, it still leaves us helpless. It leaves us into tears, and it has left our community into many tears with recent deaths where we can't even give them a proper burial, and we have to do like the prayer, the janaza here without them being present here themselves.
Yeah.
And whenever we see a communities having a death news, it would leave everyone else like, oh my God, is my family okay? This happened to them. How far were they from my house? How far were they from this house? You know, it leads them into a lot of, I guess, thoughts and like kind of sadness, depression. I know my father, he feels guilty to eat because he doesn't know his his mother, his brothers are eating. Majority of the time it's just helplessness. We feel very helpless and kind of we don't know what to do. Yeah.
What do you think the international community should be doing?
I think reach out to their MPs. Definitely boycott. I know people think boycott doesn't work that well, but the smallest difference creates a ripple. And boycotting would be a huge difference because a lot of these things are coming from Xinjiang, China, East Turkistan, right? So everything that we buy supports them, supports Chinese community to increase more factories and force more women to work in these factories, and they sell it to the world for cheaper price, and people buy it. You know? And if we boycott it and stop that communication line where they buy stuff from them, maybe these factories will close. Maybe at least we could save some women from not working and prevent these slavery, labor work.
It could be a way to, force China to take action as well, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
So what do you think, Amina, about, the United States has a Forced Labor Prevention Act, a Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, but Canada doesn't have anything like that. And we know that the House of Commons, it declared that what was going on in China was genocide, but it hasn't really taken much action.
Yeah.
So do you think Canada should pass similar legislation?
I definitely should. Canada is known to fight for people's rights and freedom, and they're always in the front line to help whoever is in need of help. And Uyghur people should not be any different. Like Ukraine was suffering and they were in war and impacted by horrible things, and Canada was in the front line of accepting refugees, accepting them in whatever way they can, helping them. And I think it shouldn't be no different to the Uyghur people suffering, and also they are impacted by such genocide. So I think Canada should also implement the legislation that's happened, the same thing as the US, and they should also help the refugees kind of feel a little bit at home and help them start their life or move on with their life.
More and more people are becoming more concerned about like what's in the supply chain and, is it ethical, right? Who's making our products? Where is it being made? So I think that there is impetus there. So if the politicians want to follow that will, that would be great.
Yeah,
that would be fantastic.
That would be a huge change for.
Can you tell me a little bit about refugees? Because you mentioned that. I know that there is Uyghur community in other countries besides China. I'm guessing it would be very difficult for people in China to leave.
Oh yeah.
On the basis that they're refugees.
Yeah.
But let's say they're in a third country, right? What do you think that Canada should do for these refugees?
The ones, for example, living in third world countries like Thailand, a lot of these Uyghur people that are there seeking refuge are put into jail, and they almost have a bounty on their heads. So these countries are sending Uyghur people back to China. And once they're back in China, they're in concentration camps or dead. So there's no way they're going to survive anything like that. And I think Canada should take a step and at least bring some of these refugees to Canada and give them a second home here and let them, give them the same chance that Ukrainians and other refugees got as well.
And I guess ease the rules a bit, right? Because, for example, they might not be able to get the documents easily from China, but maybe they can make that easier. Or, for example, if someone applies for a student visa, knowing that, okay, these students will not be able to go back, right? It might not be safe for them to go back, but maybe we should just accept them anyway.
Yeah, we should. It's almost impossible to get documents from China because they won't try to help any Uyghur people. So definitely easing the acceptance to Canada will be so much more easier, especially to the students. The students are the future for the Uyghur generation that's coming.
What do you think ordinary people should do? Like, let's say somebody like me or somebody who's watching, what would you advise them in terms of what they can do to help the Uyghur community or stand in solidarity with them?
Definitely share. Like share awareness, come out to the protest. Protests are huge. It's the reason why people are now aware of Uyghur people, is because our community kept going on protests, keep saying, okay, stop China for what it's doing. Educate yourselves, what is Uyghur and what's China doing on our culture, because China is stealing our culture and claiming it theirs. So definitely educate yourselves. Feel other Uyghur people, welcome to them. I know as a child growing up myself, I felt very lonely being the Uyghur I am. People ask me, where are you from? I'll say East Turkistan, like where? Tajikistan, Turkmenistan.
Yeah.
They will say something like that. I will feel very out of this world almost. But definitely make other Uyghur people welcome. I don't know, maybe if you have the resources, create a safe community for them.
You mentioned boycotting, and I understand, for example, that there are certain products that are made in that region, East Turkestan, or what China calls Xinjiang, that are well known to be made by members of the Uyghur community, right? For example, cotton, or certain things that are used for solar panels, right? And maybe there are other things that you can think of.
Hair wigs. There was research showing that hair wigs came from women that went to concentration camps, and they would use these hairs to make wigs. I know that definitely the wigs and all these things like Shein. It's made in...
This company, Shein.
The company. They're so cheap for a reason, because they don't have to pay their employees. They're slaves in these factories working. So that's why they're cheap. They're not cheap for no reason. Definitely boycotting. It doesn't really specifically say this product came from Xinjiang. It doesn't say that. It says China, right?
Yes.
So it's hard to locate where this product actually came from. But definitely labor forces are put into play, and all of these products are made and they're cheap. Yeah.
Amina, thank you for sharing your story. That was really brave of you. And I know that probably you will face repercussions from the Chinese government in some way, electronically. But I wish you the best, and I pray for you and I pray for your community.
Thank you for sharing my story.
Our videos reach people all over the world. We hope you will seize the opportunity to share in the reward from God. Please support us today.